Hello there, and welcome to the Rogue Podcast, a Star Wars show. Today we got myself, CJ, and David breaking down Episode 5 of Ahsoka, or Shadow Warrior. It was called, right? Shadow Warrior. Oh, I'm so excited to talk about this episode. I think it's lived up to the hype that we were looking for, except for John. John apparently had extremely high standards that he was looking to, but he's not here today to bring us down. So we get to talk about how we want to and not to worry about the fights unless CJ has some opinions that I'm not aware of. But I know me and David loved this episode. We're really excited to talk about it with you guys. So please hop in the comment section, ask us whatever questions you may have. And we are really excited to have you guys today with us. So if you're watching this recorded, please, again, be sure to comment and we can respond to those later on. Second, order of business. Please be sure to tell your friends about the podcast. It's the best way that you can grow this, get us a good community. We would love to start posting some things more often as we can. But the Ahsoka show comes out in the busiest time of the year for me, beginning of school year, as well as coaching football. So I don't have that kind of time. But look for some stuff. It's tough, man. We need to hire like a social media guy or something to clip the stuff and put it on TikTok and Instagram and whatnot. Oh, beautiful.
Reminds me of an episode we watched.
Like the video. Subscribe to the channel if you aren't already. You will at least be guaranteed one review/recap each week. Hopefully get some more stuff coming soon. So, David, CJ, Shadow Warrior, initial thoughts.
Ooh, I loved it so much, man. We got some Clone Wars movie stuff. We got some flashbacks. We got some Vader. We got some good choreography. I enjoyed it a lot.
Siege?
I liked it. I thought it was well executed.
That's it? That's all you got for me?
That's it. I mean, we're about to talk about it.
We are. What were some of the highlights for you?
Right,
what were some of the highlights?
Maybe a low light.
I thought they did a good job of progressing Ahsoka through the world between worlds. Appreciated them. I thought it was cool how they showed her at the different stages of her life. I thought that I don't know, like David said, the choreography. I appreciated that, like, she looked and fought and acted like she did at those stages too. It wasn't just like old Ahsoka. Sure. And then I also thought it was did a good job of making it real focused on what it should have been focused on. So, which is a big difference from some of these previous shows where they kind of meander through things when they have something important to get through.
So many of the Star Wars shows we've got and have some really interesting things going on, and then they choose to spend time on things we just don't care about, especially the Kenobi show. Oh my gosh. Last Jedi did it with the Rose, Tico, and Finn mission. It's just something we've seen in Star Wars. It's just giving us extra content that just detracts from the main story. And they did a really good job. I mean, we did get some stuff with Hera and Jason, but it was minimal. That didn't really break up the main story very much. And that was necessary in a way.
I really enjoyed
it connected
that too.
It to the actual overarching world.
Yeah, it actually was attached to our story. The one thing that I was glad we did not see, that we talked about the potential. We said we really want this episode to focus on Ahsoka and not be going back to Sabine and Baylan and Shin and Morgan. Not this episode just needs to be focused on what's going on here. So I'm glad they weren't trying to tell two stories at once, because it just wouldn't have been enough for what they needed to do this week.
The episodes just aren't really long enough to always do that very well.
Right. This one was a little bit longer though, wasn't it? 50-something minutes?
Yeah.
Yeah, because even after the World Between Worlds stuff ended, we still had quite a bit of time of what was going on with Ahsoka's recovery from her drowning incident, as well as everything that happened with the Purrgil. It's not like the Ahsoka, the World Between Worlds was the good part of the story, and the stuff after it sucked. I mean, I was getting chills with the Purrgil and stuff as well.
Yeah, I was really interested. I was like, man. I was like, why did they? And then I thought for a minute. I was like, why didn't they think about this like a while sooner?
What do you mean, like getting on with the Purrgil?
Like just like interacting with them with the Force, since they.
I mean, they literally just got there.
Oh yeah, that's right. Because they like traveled there.
And Ahsoka just fell off the cliff. There's been no time for anything like that.
I mean, like before the. Yeah, I guess that's true. They just got to the planet.
Yeah.
So
man, phenomenal though. Phenomenal. All right, let's dive into it. So right off the bat, Harris shows up and is looking for Ahsoka and Sabine. They can't find him. They theorize a bunch of stuff, wondering what's going on. And what's his name? What's
Jason?
the droid's name?
Hu
No,
Yang.
the droid's name.
Li Yang.
Hu Yang.
Hu Yang, yeah. Hu Yang is wondering it's either that they went with them or they're dead. And he's really hoping that he went with them. And I just thought that was a cool scene. Even when it's a droid and they deliver emotion, I still think it's one of the coolest things in Star Wars. You know what I mean? When a droid delivers emotion. But I enjoyed that.
I like it because he's not like too overdone.
C-3PO is pretty emotional.
Yeah. Normally they're not like too overdone. Normally they're like it's somewhat believable at least. So fits universe.
So they're wondering what's going on, and it flashes finally to Ahsoka and Anakin. And I know that we had some concerns last week about how Anakin looked de-aged, but I mean it was near flawless. Would you guys agree?
I thought he looked good.
Looked
I didn't
phenomenal.
have any issue at all, and I was like, I love this so much.
Yeah, it was great. But right off the get-go, we're seeing Anakin talk to Ahsoka about how he has to complete her training, right? And she says it's a little late for that. Like you can just tell just the grudge that she holds toward him as well as toward herself, just the failure of both of them. You know what I mean? She's holding it against him for what he did, which is pretty understandable, but she still holds herself responsible for that. And that was like the key driving force to this whole episode is just how she has changed since the moment she learned Anakin was Darth Vader.
Yeah, it really just like shook everything that she knew and believed.
Yeah, I mean, and we've talked about it. It's been a complaint of people that Ahsoka has been emotionless. She's been stern. She has been hopeful. I think John was the main person who talked about that. And just like, this isn't the Ahsoka we know. Why is she acting this way towards Sabine and whatnot? And I think it was just very intentional that Dave Filoni was trying to show, even since Mandalorian. I mean, when she showed up in season 2, this is who her personality has been. Her unwillingness to train Grogu, just the sense of hopelessness kind of that I think she's carried around with her. And this episode was Anakin trying to show her that she needed to live life rather than just be a warrior and just surviving and just carrying out missions. There's so much more to that being a Jedi, but I'm getting ahead of myself.
I mean, that's kind of the issues. Is just that she's been like kind of a robot that's been just so disconnected with everything that, you know, she's not leading really, like Anakin said.
Well, and I think that she has led, but she's been a reluctant leader. And I think that what Anakin was saying when he was with Ahsoka in the Clone Wars is he was training her for what she needed in that time, adjusting to the times. And that was to be a general, a leader, a commander, and a warrior, right? And that is what she needed. And that's what kept her alive through Order 66. That's what kept her alive in the Clone Wars. But that was a major flaw of the Jedi. Is that's not what they're supposed to be. It's not what they're supposed to do.
Yeah,
they're
primary warriors.
Yeah, they're supposed to be keepers of the peace, but more so than even keepers of the peace, they're supposed to be servants of the Force. And that's where the issue came in. And Ahsoka says, I don't want to just be a warrior. I don't want to just be a fighter. She says that as a Padawan to Anakin. And I want to be more than that. I don't want to pass on a legacy of just fighting. But he says, you know, this is what you have to be or you're going to die. You have to choose to either fight and live or die. And at that time, that's what saved her. Now, that's not probably what turned her into the best possible Jedi, but it kept her alive through the Clone Wars, and she should be forever grateful to him for that.
Yeah, and that was such a cool scene. And like the whole lesson was it, I guess, that she doesn't have to. What do you think the lesson was in all of it?
I think
I was a little bit confused by that too.
So I went back and watched it again and continued to think about it. The lesson that he's trying to get across to her, and as we talk about this episode more, hopefully it'll come out more, is kind of what I said already earlier. you are more than a warrior trying to fight and survive, right? There's more to living than just surviving and fighting. And she's lived this way that she holds on to who she's been and feeling guilty for who she's been and feeling like she's just going to be turning Sabine into the same thing. Whereas now she's realizing that in the Force, there's so much more than just fighting. There's so much more good that a Jedi can do than just fighting, which is all she's done as a Jedi. And what that led her to believe is what that led her to be, the change in her is not just feeling guilty for who she's been and the failures she's had, but rather choosing to live her life better than what she's had in the past and to train her Padawan better to be more of a follower of the Force, a servant of the Force, than just being a warrior. That there's more to that as being a Jedi. And I think that it's knowing when to fight, when not to fight is a big part of it. And that's really something that Anakin hits on when she says, I'm not going to fight you, is I've heard that before. She heard that from Luke.
Yep.
And that's a lesson I think Anakin learned from Luke, and he's now teaching Ahsoka. There's a time to fight, and there's a time to not fight and to just follow the will of the Force. And I think that's the lesson he was teaching her.
Yeah, I could see it. I wonder,
because that's all her life has been, is fighting. That's all her life has been.
I wonder if that's where we'll see a change, though, is when she'll start to actually open up to people. And
Well, we already saw that in this episode. She's happy. She's working with Hugh Yang and talking about jokes. She's saying, I have no idea where this Purgo is going to go. No idea, but I'm trusting the Force.
Oh, yeah, she's just kind of going with it.
Yeah, she's going with the flow. She's happy. She's having a good time.
She's
enjoying her life, right? She's just saying, I'm going to be a servant of the Force wherever the Force leads and guides. Before this, Ahsoka would have been tactical. She would have been thinking like a general. She would have had a battle plan. She's just following what she believes the Force is leading her to do. I think that's what Anakin's trying to show her. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does.
Yeah, I guess then a problem with how they depicted that is that seemed like what she was arguing for the entire time. And so it didn't seem like she changed from the soldier to that. It seemed like it came across to me as that's what she wanted, but that's not what she needed. And so it almost came across as the opposite of that.
I think Anakin was using those moments in her life to remind her. Yeah, to remind her of who she is and who she wanted to be the whole time, and to show her, I had some failures as a master, right? And to show her, you were right. There's more to being a Jedi than to just living a legacy of fighting. And Ahsoka was able to realize that she's more than just a warrior by seeing herself from years ago, a part of herself that she'd forgotten about, of wanting to be able to say, you know what? I don't have to fight this battle. I can save my men and do this another way. Because Anakin had trained her. There's a cost to every decision we make. We lead, people die. It happens. We're going to make mistakes, which in that time, the position they were in, being told by the Jedi Council, he may have been right. But I think also that we could have learned the Jedi could have done things differently instead of using these beings as expendable forces that are going to be sacrificed.
Yeah, that always bothered me. And I was like, you guys care a lot less than you should, I feel like.
And Ahsoka, originally she cared correctly. You guys remember in the Clone Wars, the first time that she was put in command and led soldiers to death was heartbreaking for her. And Anakin helped her get over it, and the other clones helped her get over it. But as a Jedi, that shouldn't be really something you get over.
Yeah.
Because you should be trying to save every soul as possible. That's why they're not intended to be generals. That's not what they should be.
No.
And I think that's what Anakin was trying to help her realize is, Snips, you were right. The whole time you were right. And he was trying to force her by showing himself, continually telling her to do this, do this, do this. And then to fight at the end, saying, you still don't get it. You need to fight me. You need to fight. You need to fight. You need to fight. And the only way you fight is by living. Or the only way you live is by fighting. It's the only way you live is by fighting. And Ahsoka choosing, no, I live by choosing to actually live my life by following the Force, not just by fighting and defending all the time. That was the lesson he was trying to get her to get to, where she realized it on her own without him so much telling her. I mean, that's the way, same way as a teacher of math. I can tell students the same thing every time and show them exactly what to do and say, look, I'm showing you this and I'm being very explicitly showing you this. And they can see the right thing and hear the right thing 100 times. But until they realize it for themselves, or oftentimes discover the right way on their own, that's when they really understand it and can apply it. So I think that matches what Anakin was trying to do with Ahsoka, is get her to get there by seeing all the mistakes she made, all the clones that died on the Siege of Mandalore for essentially no reason whatsoever. It was all for naught. Every clone
Everything
that
was
died
not.
in Order 66 was for nothing, absolutely for nothing. And
all the
she's
Jedi
able
too.
to learn from it. Yeah, and she's able to learn from that. So I think that's what Anakin was trying to push her. Now, here's a question for you guys. I mean, everyone's seen this episode. We don't need to dive in scene by scene, I don't think. We'll just talk about things we're interested in.
Mhm.
Was that Anakin Skywalker? Was that the world between worlds? Was it a force vision? Was it a dream? What was going on there? What do you guys think? I want to hear your opinions.
I think it was Anakin.
What's
Yeah, I think it was actually I don't think she was like drowning the whole time or whatever. I think that was actually the world between worlds.
Mhm.
And I could see it. I mean, it being the Force or it being actually Anakin is kind of the same thing. I think, at least from my understanding of how like the Force Ghost stuff works, they kind of
Become
are
one
one
with
and the
it.
same at that point.
Yeah.
So I don't know that distinction is super important, but I do believe that she was actually there and not just like there in her head while she was in the water somewhere or something like that.
Yeah. Just
So you
kind of
guys
like
both-
connected, maybe.
Yeah, it's so mysterious, and I hope we keep it that way. Like some people are saying, Dave Filoni needs to come out and let us know what it is. I don't think so. I love the mystery of Star Wars and it's being able to discuss and theorize those things. And it's interesting to think about what or how does the world between worlds really work? I mean, we've seen it in Rebels, and it's a place that Ezra's physical body entered through a portal, right?
Right.
But just because it was done that way once does not mean that that's the only way to get there. I mean, we've seen Palpatine get there by using Sith alchemy, right? And perhaps my dad actually, I talked to my phone today, or I talked on my phone to my dad today. His birthday. Happy birthday, Dad. 52, the big 5'2".
Congrats. You're getting old, Pops.
Not as old as your parents.
Nope, not as old as my parents. You were right.
But what was I going to say? I totally forgot. Oh,
On the phone.
the world between worlds, the way we've seen it so far is when Ezra pulled Ahsoka out, he saw her just as she was about to die. The other scene that we've seen, the other moment that we've seen in Star Wars in the world between worlds was when Ezra was about to pull Kanan out right before he died. So this very much may be some kind of the world between the living and the dead, right? Where perhaps this is where the body or the soul leaves the body through the Force. You know what I mean?
What's this called in Catholicism?
Purgatory?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Force purgatory?
Yeah. So
Ooh.
maybe it's something kind of like that where Ahsoka was kind of like, maybe she was dead, maybe she wasn't, and you can enter this world as a living body. So perhaps maybe her spirit, her soul, or whatever you want to call it, her Force being,
Force ghost.
was in the world between worlds and her body was left behind. But she was still on the brink enough where she was able to enter back into that. You know what I mean?
Well, the only reason I wouldn't understand that is because I don't know how Jason and Hera could hear him or her and Anakin fighting while if it was like she left her body and went there, because that seems more like a psychological or like spiritual kind of thing.
Yeah, it's like an alternate
that
dimension.
noise wouldn't be there.
It's like an alternate dimension kind of, right? In the Force.
Right, but if there's like a portal, then you could theoretically hear the noise
So are
coming
you
from the
thinking
portal.
her body fell into a portal and then she
Maybe, but
subconsciously fell back
I don't
into
think
it?
the portaling necessarily works in a way where like it's in a fixed location, because it would be kind of weird if there's just like a floating portal and it wouldn't explain
Right,
how she got in the water beneath.
Monsters
That's why I
Inc.
don't
door.
But
Yeah.
I could see it being like the Force kind of like pulls her into the portal, she learns her lesson, and it spits her back up underneath like safely in the water.
Oh, Madam
And
Web
if that were the
style?
case, that's why they can hear her and Anakin fight because that's where like almost like a tear.
Yeah.
I don't know if you've seen sci-fi where they have interdimensional tears and they just kind of pop up in places.
See, and I still think that can work with her through the Force, even if it's not so much she felt her body was in it. You know what I mean? I think that it could still work through the Force if it wasn't that way, because the Force is such an ethereal thing. It's not a physical thing. I mean, they try to quantify, like the midichlorian argument. The midichlorian isn't so much the Force itself. Like, that's not counting how much Force you have in there. It's the cells that are in your body that make you apt to being able to connect with the Force.
It quantifies your sensitivity to it.
Your sensitivity to it. It's not the Force. Everyone has the same amount of Force in them. It's just your sensitivity to it. And that's why John mentioned that Hera shouldn't be able to hear that. It's like, no, she still has just as much Force in her as anyone else. She's just not as sensitive to it. And if Jason's able to act as a conduit to that and be able to kind of point to that and point her to that, I think that any being can contact the Force. It's just you may not be sensitive to it, and maybe far more difficult as well. And that's the same thing we see with Sabine.
Well, and here's
she can access the Force. She's just not as naturally gifted, naturally talented.
Yeah, here's the thing though. Like, most starfighter pilots in Star Wars lore are more sensitive to the Force than others.
That's why they have higher reactions.
Yeah, that's why they're like good at what they do. It's the same thing for pod racing. Like,
not high enough that you're going to see instinctual usage of the Force like you do in younglings, and they say, oh, hey, look, that kid's making something float. He probably has really high midichlorian count. Not that high, but high enough that when they're adrenaline's pumping and they're doing something, they have heightened reflexes, right? And Hera may have slightly higher midichlorian count than someone, but not enough to be a Jedi, but maybe more enough so to be sensitive to those kinds of things.
You never even know.
I feel like I've heard like bounty hunters or mercenaries also having that, where they have like their sensitivity manifests itself in like a sixth sense kind of that they get, where they don't really channel it, but they can like feel things about to happen, or they just get like a premonition kind of.
Yeah,
I don't remember where I heard that though.
And that's one thing that I understand fans wanting the Force in Star Wars to adhere to the things that we've seen in the past. Like, we've seen the Force be done this way in books and in different media in Star Wars. So we wanted to follow those same things. However, I really like the idea of the Force being very mysterious and unknown, and it being something that, like I said, lives in all things and can manifest itself in many different ways. So like some people having issues with all of a sudden Ahsoka being able to talk to or commune with animals, or being able to have Force psychometry where she can remember things in the past through Force. I don't think of it as like a spiritual gift that like you have this supernatural ability where you have the gift of being able to use the Force in this way. This person has the gift of being able to use the Force in this way. I think that someone's personality, their training, their decisions, and just the moment as well can determine how you're able to use the Force. So if Ahsoka is able to connect with something in a emotional level and in a personal level, I think that can just be something that happens, right? And I feel the same way about Force psychometry. If she's able to reach into the Force and be able to access the history of what's happened with that object, that doesn't mean that like she had the gift, but we've never seen it before. I don't think it's a gift, right? I know that in lore we've seen that, like where Mace Windu, he's got Force shatter point, right? And certain people have different Force abilities. I don't personally buy into that lore. I understand people want it to follow that way, but I don't see it that way personally.
Well, even with stuff like that, like different people have different aptitudes for different things. Like there's some Jedi that are more combat focused. There are some that are just better with the Force. Some of them were, I don't know, just like better leaders or teachers, but like they kind of like manifest themselves.
I feel like,
I don't know, maybe it was like a personality trait, but like their giftings. Teaching, that was a bad one, but I know, especially from like the games and stuff, like some of them are just better at using their Force powers to do different things, and some of them use the Force to fight. And it's not like people don't do both, it's just that they're better at one maybe than the other. And so in this instance, it's not that she necessarily couldn't, maybe that's just not like a gift. Like with Ezra, it was clearly like a gift. He was super untrained. Didn't have a ton of experience, but he could talk to the Purrgil pretty quickly.
Mm.
And with her, she's like strong enough to do it. It's probably not a gift, but that doesn't necessarily mean it's not something that she can access pieces of it. I don't think she would be able to do it on Ezra's level.
Yeah,
But she can do something.
Just like they talked about with Sabine. There's natural talent and ability that comes with using the Force. Some things are going to come easier to others. And I think that Ezra, speaking with animals and other creatures, that's a natural talent of his. But that doesn't mean that if it's not your natural talent that it can't possibly be done. You know what I mean?
I mean, it could be just learned too.
It can be a learned thing. Yeah.
Like, I like it more when it is something that you do have to learn for most people, which kind of like is more Star Wars lore-y, you know? You have to train to get better.
Mm-hmm. Okay, let's talk about some of the stuff that we saw. So the combat here was really good. Some of the best lightsaber combat we've seen since Revenge of the Sith.
So good.
The best. I mean, Hayden Christensen looked phenomenal.
Yep, looked like Anakin of old.
A little bit slower, but I also think that he was not trying to kill Ahsoka here. Like, if he goes full Revenge of the Sith here, it's a different story. He's not trying to kill her. And I think people are like, also a part of it is they don't have Nick Gillard doing the choreography. And Ewan McGregor and Hayden Christensen spent so many hours on lightsaber training. Yeah. And I just can't imagine that they're going to put in that much practice like those Jet guys did for that movie. Because I mean, they worked on that movie for years and years and years. I'll tell you right now, they did not work on this one episode for that many years. I mean, they trained for so long. Even before filming ever started, they were well into their training. Yeah, so, I mean, I think Rosario Dawson looked really good. Yeah. And she's done a lot of the saber combat herself. Of course, not all of it, but she has done a lot of it. But Hayden, I mean, I don't know if he had a stunt double in there. If he did.
I don't think so, man.
I think also like in universe, I don't know if this would work, but I know Darth Vader fought. He was a little bit slower, but like more powerful than Anakin before Mustafar.
And you saw some of that in this fight.
Yeah, and I feel like even though he's a good guy now or whatever, Force Ghost, I feel like he would still retain some of that fighting style that he had when he died.
And he also was trying to personify that part of himself as well, a little bit.
Sith eyes and all. Sith eyes.
Also, I love seeing something we've never seen before with his like shrug that he does. He did that a couple times, and then he did the one time where he pushed her back when they were locked. Oh, that was cool, man. That was sick. But seeing Ahsoka more agilely fighting too, where she kicks her. Yeah,
the little girls that they had play young Ahsoka, I thought did a good job. I like that they added the twirls. They added
especially
when she kind of constantly moving.
Yeah, the like slide Mandos. Slice was cool.
Those Mandos looked sick too.
The one gripe I have about that scene is there's a scene where she literally comes up to Mandalorian and just goes, "Huh," and stabs him right in the Beskar chest plate, and it just goes through right like butter.
Well, I mean, there's some times in Clone Wars that they stab someone right through the chest as well. Whispering Mitt.
I know, but Clone Wars, it's like you kind of expect it because it's a kid show.
I don't think it's impenetrable from lightsabers, at least in the canon that we've seen. It's not impenetrable, but like a glancing blow, it's not going to cut straight through. Usually it has to be a stab with a lot of force to get through.
Yeah,
but like whenever they
one-hander.
Yeah. What was I going to say? Oh, I thought that was Gar Saxon at first with his horns on, but I think it was just a random Mandalorian.
Yeah, we saw him. Random.
We didn't see his death because he lives to Rebels, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
So we don't see his death. But Sabine Wren's mom kills him, right? Yeah.
Yes.
Because Sabine duels him on the ice, and she defeats him, and then
he tries to pull fast.
He tries to pull a fast one on him, and her mom shoots him.
Die.
What was I gonna say? Jedi. Oh, combat was really cool. Seeing the Clone Wars flashback, seeing Anakin in the Clone Wars armor with his his growing hair, shorter hair, phenomenal. It was great. That girl who played as Ahsoka, I saw her face, and I was like, I know this girl. What do I know her from? and then I was having a conversation. I was like, it's interesting seeing her play Ahsoka, but like not really look like her. I was like, I don't know, that's kind of off because she doesn't really look like Rosario Dawson, you know. And I was like, well, I thought the girl from who played Gamora in the Avengers movies, she did a good job, but she didn't really look anything like Gamora. So I literally had that conversation, and then I went and looked up the actress today. It's the same girl.
Gamora.
It's the girl who plays young Gamora. And then she's also in that 65 movie with Adam Driver, 65 million years ago, which I just watched that a few weeks ago.
I haven't
Any
seen
good?
that.
Any
Yeah,
good?
it's okay. I really like Adam Driver, so anything with him I enjoy watching because I think he's a really good actor.
Kind of a pass.
So I mean, it wasn't bad. It was him fighting dinosaurs and protecting a little girl the whole movie. So if you like that kind of stuff.
So like The Last of
Fair
Us,
enough.
but
there
not
was
zombies.
with just dinosaurs and no other characters. It was literally just the two of them.
I don't know, man.
It was not great.
Yeah.
But I started it, so I finished it.
I'm gonna swipe left right now.
Fair enough.
But yeah, I very much it was just so cool to see. The one complaint I will have about this was the clones. They just didn't look great. There were at times they looked good. Their motion was kind of robotic. They're running. Some of them, like I think you could tell which ones were real
CGI.
people and then which ones were CGI. And their feet moving on the ground maybe is what it was.
Well, no, it was when they walk like gorillas. I don't even know.
Well, then there was the one time he was pushing like the crate. I was like,
yeah,
was that added in post? I don't know what I'm seeing here. But the thing that really bothered me was just like the flopping armor on their arms and their shoulder pads. Like, there was times it's just like flopping. I was like, oh man, it just bothers me. And maybe it's because we've seen it in Clone Wars so much, but no, those ones are real people.
Yeah.
And I wonder if they use the 501st again, like they did with Mandalorian. You know what the 501st is?
Yeah, the volunteers.
The volunteer fans that wear armor and stuff. But I want to see a little bit higher consistency quality there. They use the volume a lot here, which I understand it saves them a lot of money, but they had that whole fog of war with the mist and the smoke, just kind of trying to hide so they don't have to pay as much for stuff and animate these big backgrounds. But for what we cared about was the characters and what was going on there, and it definitely hit.
Yeah, you could tell that they tried to save some on budget, but I'm fine with that.
And they definitely spent a ton.
Yeah, like I'm happy with what we got.
How did you like this version of the World Between Worlds? Does it look better than the Rebels version? Because Rebels is very black and white. It's just blackness and then the white lines. But they kind of made this look more ethereal and more.
Looks like Tron, dude.
Yeah,
I really like the scene where he like breaks it and it like turns sideways and it looks like you have the reflection top and bottom.
Yeah,
I thought that was a really cool shot. So I liked how it looked in this way.
Or when he kicks her out into it.
No, I loved when he told her that she said, "Well, what if I don't want to fight anymore?" And he's like, "Then you'll die." And he walks and leads his men into battle, which is just like his safe space, his battle. And as he's walking the fog, it just turns into Vader as the explosion, and then the explosion, and he turns back. Oh my gosh, that was phenomenal.
Those were really good shots too.
Yeah, phenomenal shots. And we got to see it again when he's charging her on the bridge again. Just such a great
Sith eyes, red saber
episode. I could just go on and on about it. I mean, we talked about the lesson that Ahsoka learned, but I think that as this continues on the next 3 episodes, we're going to see her relationship with the Force be very different. Her confidence is going to be much higher. Her relationship with Sabine is going to be different, and she's just going to have renewed hope.
I think she's going to be more like Ahsoka of old.
Yeah, she's going to be the hopeful Ahsoka that we knew before.
Snips. We're getting Snips back.
I mean, she's not going to be a child. She's still going to be mature, more mature than she was in the past.
Snaps. We're getting snaps.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm excited. I'm excited to see where this goes. And we haven't even seen Ezra or Thrawn yet.
No. And this is like make me like question that we will get to see.
You think that'll be season 2 stuff?
I think we'll.
Well, I know we're seeing Thrawn. That's the only thing that we have not seen from the trailers is the scene where Thrawn turns around. 9 seconds is all we haven't seen from the trailers.
And I wonder if that 9 seconds is literally like the end of the show.
It'd be funny.
That'd be weird.
It would.
One thing,
I think it's gonna be their movie though.
there were more lines that Anakin said that we have not seen yet. The line that was in the teaser about how he is telling Ahsoka that in this war you're going to have to fight more than battle droids. And granted, that was similar to the line that we heard in Rebels, so maybe it was just for the teaser, is what they recorded that line for, or maybe that was cut. But it's possible we see more Anakin as a Force ghost or talking to Ahsoka or something. What
Yeah,
do you guys
it's
think?
I could
possible.
see it. It's gonna be difficult ahead.
That'd be cool to see. It'd be very interesting if we start seeing a relationship of Ahsoka with Anakin's Force ghost, because I think that would make so much sense. We see Obi-Wan do it for Luke. We see Yoda do it for Luke. We see Luke do it for Rey. It would only make sense that Anakin would do it for Ahsoka.
Yeah, I could see it.
It'd be awesome, man. It'd be phenomenal.
Phenomenal.
All right. Anything else about the seeing Captain Rex was cool. A short little conversation she had with him. He looked really good. And having that voice as Tamara Morrison was interesting. Would you guys have rather had the voice with D. Bradley Baker or with Tamara Morrison?
I think Baker.
You would have rather had the Clone Wars clone voice?
Yeah.
For Rex. It was interesting, but we've had clones already live action since Disney's bought it. It would have been weird for them to use a different voice. It would have been fun to hear, but it would have been odd. What about if they would have imposed Ashley Eckstein's voice on young Ahsoka?
It'd been weird.
I think
I don't
with
love
like
it.
the mouth movement and stuff, I don't know. I feel like
if they were able to
it's
get
easy
it right,
to mess up.
Yeah. Like if it would have sounded off, you know what I mean? Like if you could tell that the voice didn't match the person, then I wouldn't have liked it. But if they could have gotten it perfect where it was convincing, then that would have been really cool. But like you said, it would have had to be perfect because if it wasn't, it wouldn't have been worth it. I just feel bad for Ashley Eckstein sometimes because she helped create such an amazing character and she's such a great person for Star Wars and just what she does in the community and how great she is with fans. I want to see her get the love that she deserves for this character being brought to live action. And for her not to be a part of it is just, I feel bad for her because I know how much the character means to her.
Yeah, it's too bad.
It does suck.
But I think Rosario Dawson was the right choice for live action. I mean, she's been phenomenal. And you can't really have Ashley Eckstein like go be a little kid.
Yeah,
she's
that's true.
40-something-year-old woman. But it would have been cool if they could have used her voice in this. So I don't know. All right. So Ahsoka gets pulled out. And we kind of discussed already. So you guys don't think that like she was in the water the whole time?
No.
I mean, her lungs would be full of water.
Yeah.
Unless the Force has been protecting her somehow. Like
back to bro, it heals anything.
Do you think like
Haven't
the Force
you learned?
possibly could have been like, I don't know.
If it's gonna do that, why wouldn't it just pull her in directly?
Yeah. So you're thinking that? Do you think that the Force pulled her in, or do you think Anakin pulled her in, or potentially one of the Mortis gods?
I think Anakin pulling her. Anakin is the Force at this point. I don't know. I feel like with the way Force Ghost works, they're all like the Force.
Yeah.
Collective agreement.
They have like separate bodies. They retain their voices and their personalities, but they all kind of like align as
they're part of the
Force
cosmic
person.
Force.
Right. So I think that, however you want to say it, one of those two, I think it's basically the same thing. But yeah. It just opened a little tear for her as she fell.
Do you think that we saw Morai in episode 1, right? The owl?
Yeah.
I don't remember.
Yeah, we saw him.
Right? He was on the planet when she
like got up.
When Ahsoka got the map in episode 1, right?
Not temple.
Yeah. Wasn't Morai there?
I don't remember.
I don't know. Yeah, maybe.
We've seen Morai in live action.
I feel like we did. Is there anything you disliked in this episode? disliked.
I'm not seeing. Oh yeah, we see it in the Mandalorian episode
Yeah, that sounds about right. And when they meet her on that planet.
when they meet her on that planet. Okay, so Morai is still a part of her life. So that means that the sister is still a part of her life. So do we think that that has anything to do with it?
It's possible.
Because I mean, she has essentially a Force god living inside of her.
Yeah.
I think so. Yeah, that might be what Dave's kind of leading towards. I don't know.
It's if that is the case, like they would kind of have to tell us. I don't know that we can necessarily determine that from what we've seen so far. If it was that, but it's certainly not. It'd be the only other thing is would Morai need to be there to do that, or would it
I don't
just like
know if
reach
it's so
across the
much-
galaxy?
I don't know if
Luke
it's so
style.
much the owl itself doing it. I think it's more so the presence of the daughter. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
If you know what I'm referring to, in the Clone Wars, there are 3 episodes that take place on a realm or a planet called Mortis that Ahsoka, Obi-Wan, and Anakin visit.
Good place.
And they're really cool. It really dives into how the Force works and the purpose of the Force, the will of the Force, the balance of the Force. At that place, Ahsoka dies. The brother is what he's called, was the dark side of the Force. He bites Ahsoka, turns her evil, right? And then who kills her? Does Anakin kill her when Anakin's on the dark side, or does the brother kill her? I don't recall.
I think Anakin.
I think Anakin, when he is like turned to the dark side, kills Ahsoka, and all those memories are erased for him. He doesn't remember any of it. But Ahsoka lives because the sister, who is the embodiment of the light side of the Force, sacrifices herself to save her. And it's just a really cool scene, really powerful scene. But from that moment, this owl named Morai has followed her around that was on that planet. And that owl had always stuck with the sister in the past. So the belief is that the sister, which is the embodiment of the light side of the Force, as a Force god that's been living for years and years and years, is now a part of Ahsoka. So just interesting things to think about.
Ahsoka is the light side.
Yeah, and that's what. So I watched some videos about this, which I usually try not to watch videos about episodes until after I have recorded our own podcast. But it's been 3 days, and I was just so excited about it that I went and watched some things. Yeah. And people keep talking about this like Ahsoka the White as this other person that's not the regular Ahsoka. I know, they're like Gandalf the Gray, and then he had this revelation, became Gandalf the White. And I'm like, Ahsoka's the same person. She's not like transforming into somebody else. I truly do believe that she just has had she's learned a lesson is all it really comes down to. And now she's wearing a white robe. Like she's got more than one piece of clothes. But
you've seen her wear white before.
Yeah. And people complained that this is the first time she's ever worn white, and she's been in like grieving ever since.
And I don't think it's the first time.
Lots of people are saying is that Dave retconned when she wore white in Rebels.
Oh, really?
So when Ahsoka showed up to get Sabine in the Rebels prologue, she's wearing her white robe and so on and so forth, right? Well, when she shows up to get Sabine in the Ahsoka show, she is not. She doesn't have her staff or anything like that. So what people are saying is, were those two scenes separate? And Ahsoka showed up the first time to train Sabine, and she was wearing white and stuff and had the staff. And then she trains Sabine and doesn't go right. And then when we see in Ahsoka is the second time she picks up Sabine, and she's back to her grieving ways. And now the third time that we see Ahsoka, or second time we're seeing Ahsoka wear white in this episode of the Ahsoka show, episode 5, is now the second time that she's gone back to wearing white. What I believe is that Dave just retconned, and that time that we see in Rebels where she's wearing white and stuff is the exact same scene as where she's wearing her gray. But he realized he didn't want her to have this revelation until after all of this. So now this is her putting on her white. So I don't know. Not that that really matters.
Or she just likes white.
Or she's just like, oh, my gray outfit's soaking wet and salty from the ocean. I don't have my washing machine with me, so I'm put on the white one. It could just be that too.
It's possible. It was on her ship.
It was really cool though. I feel like almost every scene that we've seen so far, I've said scene twice in a sentence a few times now. I felt like it's been rather dark, like it's been dark outside, right? Or they've been inside. Because space battles have been dark. We had one episode, the flying, what was it called? Time to Fly. That one was daytime, right? It was light out. When they flew in, there was like white and blue sky and white clouds, I believe.
Yeah, it was light time.
Well,
Yeah. But when Ahsoka was on Lothal picking up Sabine, it was dark. All last episode was dark.
Well, it turned to nighttime in the last episode.
Right. But the majority of the show I feel is dark. Or has been. Well, I guess the opening episode when they picked up
she's in the desert.
And the map.
Desert. It was light out then. But it just hasn't, even though it's like daylight out, just like the lighting itself has been kind of gloomy. And you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But when this happened and she sees the Purrgil and she's out on her ship wearing all white, my screen just felt like it was so much brighter. You know what I mean?
Like it wasn't like over.
Part of that's like the music and all of that, like the tone that they're setting is more positive.
I just think it was very intentional that they were trying to show that, and I think it really hit. I mean, the music was so good this episode. It's been phenomenal all season. The music.
It's been a good season.
Yeah. So like, I don't know. So far, I would say I've enjoyed this more than Andor. I don't know that it was as well edited and produced as Andor was, because Andor was just very high quality looking. But I would definitely say that as far as like John has talked about the Star Wars feel, the discussion of the Force and the emotion that you carry with every episode and every character and moment, that has absolutely been there. This has just been a lot of fun. Like I've enjoyed the show a ton. It's just fun to sit down and watch.
I think this is easily the best show that they've done. Andor, honestly, if you didn't know that it was Star Wars, like you could pass that off. I feel like as another sci-fi show.
Mm-hmm.
But this one, I feel like, is really distinctly Star Wars, and of all the ones that have been distinctly Star Wars, they've really nailed this one.
Yeah, and don't get me wrong. I've said before, when they first bought Disney and started announcing they were going to do shows, I said, I hope we get things that are different than what we've always gotten. I'm 100% for stories in the Star Wars galaxy that are just really good stories and really well made. They don't have to all be Jedi. Now, I love the Jedi stuff, but I like stuff that has nothing to do with them because I just think the Star Wars galaxy is so huge. It's so interesting. Yeah. The vast majority, and at least the big things like we talked about before, they need to have that, right? But Rogue One was one of the best Star Wars things that we've seen, and we didn't get a Jedi in that of any kind. And we just saw Darth Vader for a few minutes, and it was really good. I love that movie. It was phenomenal.
Yeah.
Best Disney New Hope. Movie. The original Star Wars had lightsabers in it for not too long.
No, it's like one fight.
Yeah, you had Obi-Wan and Anakin.
It wasn't a great one.
Obi-Wan and Vader, and that was it. And that is like the original Star Wars. I mean, prequels, of course, had them all the time, but Star Wars does not have to have lightsabers and force powers to be phenomenal. It's a story-driven. It's a story-driven franchise, and if you have a great story, it can be good. So I'm not knocking Andor for that at all. I loved Andor. Do not get me wrong, but it is refreshing to have. This is what Obi-Wan should have been.
The best of both worlds.
Best of both worlds.
Star Wars show.
The one thing I do think this does better than Andor is like Ahsoka as the central character. I think is way more interesting than Andor was, like himself.
Yeah,
I think they've done a better job with the characters themselves.
Just really like the main character, because most of the other characters in Andor got pretty fleshed out.
Yeah,
like, he was just kind of like a blank slate for a lot of the movie.
Yeah, Andor, and that's part of the character himself. He's not an interesting character, and that's not what he's designed to be. Like,
right?
He's just a guy. He's just a guy who made he made a way to make a huge impact on the galaxy as a normal person.
Yeah.
And he's a begrudged person who doesn't really care about anything but himself, but he becomes something more. And I think that's really interesting about his character. But Ahsoka, you're right. She's got so much more going on. And we've known her for so long. We've seen her since she was a kid. I mean, we've been with Ahsoka since 2008, 15 years. 15 years.
Especially with like Boba, and then you have some of the prequel stuff or the sequel stuff, and then with the with the Kenobi show, they haven't necessarily done a good job of nailing old characters in their newer shows, and this is by far the best they've done.
And I think that's why we were so confident that this show was going to be good, because we knew it was in the right hands. I mean, this is the guy that created Ahsoka, right? Him and George Lucas created her together, and we know he's going to honor her properly and treat her properly. We did not get that. We had Rian Johnson taking a character like Luke Skywalker that was beloved for 40 years and just
about to have a seizure. Sorry,
doing the wrong thing with him. And I understand some of the decisions he made, CJ. I'm not going to just say every single thing he did was wrong. I didn't like the major decisions, and I liked the idea of trying to subvert expectations to an extent, but at the same time, doing something that's outside of who a character is, it just hurts the legacy of that character. I mean,
you have to set it up better than what he did. I feel like if you're going to do it.
Yeah, especially with something that's so off screen. Like, we've never seen Kylo Ren. We haven't seen Luke being afraid of people turning to the dark side. I mean, he saw good in Darth Vader, a man he barely knew. It just doesn't make sense that he would turn on his own nephew, a man who he's known, or a kid who he's known from birth, and think about murdering him at the signs of dark side, right? And he's even seen dark side himself and seen how he could hold back from it.
Just mind blowing.
So, like, we know that there are going to be different actors who treat people incorrectly, or I'm sorry, different directors who treat people incorrectly. But you know that Dave Filoni is going to treat Ahsoka correctly. Like, you don't have to worry about that.
Well, another thing that helps with this is like Dave Filoni has done the entire Ahsoka. Like, it's not just that he loves the character; he's done it all. So like this is just a continuation of what he's already done.
Yeah.
And I think that helps it have a unified vision with the stuff that it's following.
Yeah, and I mean, I wouldn't even be as confident in Filoni doing a Kenobi show as I would be with him doing an Ahsoka show. I mean, I would still be confident, but just not as confident, because you just know this is his baby.
It's almost like he can't mess this up because it's his.
It's his, exactly. What he says about Ahsoka is the way it is.
Yeah.
You know? And I'm almost getting to the point where I will feel that way about whatever he does in Star Wars, because I just believe there are some directors in Star Wars that I just know. I don't even believe it. I just know I know more about Star Wars than they do.
Yeah.
And they're coming in like, I'm excited for a Star Wars project. Just learning so much about the lore and learning about these characters. It's just exciting. I mean, I don't want you touching it if you don't know what you're doing. You know what I mean? Or if someone is in control saying, no, you're not doing that, right? Like with Kenobi.
You can't do it with like established stuff. If you're going to come in and do Star Wars stuff like that, have it be isolated so that if you do play a little fast and loose with it, you can kind of get around because it's not messing with something that people already like.
Well, like Rogue One. What that guy does with Andor, he can make the Andor character whatever he wants him to be, and bothers me none. Right? And I think he's done a fine job with that. And with the other things in Star Wars, there have been people on the team who are like the lore checkers and whatnot, that they've been putting in different things into the background and whatnot, and that's fun, of course, but it doesn't affect the story. But he's respected. He hasn't had to worry about the Force or how any of that works because he's not part of what he's done. And he's respected what the Empire was. I think he's enhanced the story of what the Empire was dramatically, as well as enhanced what the Rebellion was. But we haven't had to worry about him ruining a character because he used his own characters.
I think the big draw with that show, and the thing that I liked about the most and what he's nailed, is the political aspect of it, and like the different factions and like the conflict galaxy wide. And so I think that's a little bit easier to grasp than like trying to nail a character like Ahsoka or Sabine, because you can draw from things in real life.
Yes.
And like understand it better rather than having to understand like a person.
It's a story that's been
just
done.
Not learning about. Yeah.
Yeah. But he's also had some really great characters like what's the spy's name? The main guy?
Luthen.
Luthen, yeah, like Luthen. What a great character he created for that show. Man, he's phenomenal. He drives that show.
So good.
He's done well with Mon Mothma. I like what
Yeah.
he. I thought she was really
Mothma's good.
interesting in that show
Again, a character who's been in Star Wars for 40 plus years. Well, I
Right.
guess 50. What, 78 did Star Wars come out?
It's 50 years, dude.
Almost 50
Almost
years.
50 years.
Yeah. What year did Star Wars? 77. That's close. I said 78. So yeah, we're coming up, man. 4 years. Whew, it's wild. But she's been around for a long time, but she's not a character that you're like, don't you dare mess up Mon Mothma.
I mean,
Right.
she's just like a political leader. Like, that's the extent we get of her, even in like Legends books. She's in politics.
Yeah.
Still there.
Now we got a mention of Senator Organa today, or I should say
Mhm.
Tuesday.
Yeah.
That was fun, kind of to see that she's still bending the rules a little bit. Because she's like, Senator Organa doesn't know how much more time she can buy us. Like, Organa's on the
Yeah.
side of not following what the Galactic Republic says.
Rebellion. She's on the
Well,
side
she's
of
not a
rebellion.
career politician. She was actually a rebel.
Yeah,
So-
that's true. Well, I mean, she was a senator in the Empire.
Yeah, but like when she joined the rebellion, she wasn't really a senator anymore.
She was a patsy senator.
I guess. I don't know.
Ponzi? I don't know,
Ponzi.
fake
Ponzi.
scheme.
Yeah.
But she was definitely a politician when the New Republic came around.
Right.
But yeah,
She's going back up.
it was cool to see that, and I'm glad that it wasn't like we saw a CGI version of her. I think we've had enough of that stuff done for the most part.
Mhm.
Was it?
I just
The-
recast
so
her. I'd
the
rather
first-
you recast than CGI.
Yeah, me too. The first time I watched this episode, like I kept being like, man, this guy's doing a really good job being Anakin. And then it would like take me out, and I was like, man, I just wish it was the same Anakin. And then I was like, what is my brain doing? Am I just having such a hard time believing it's this Hayden Christensen?
I have
Like,
Tourette's.
the second time I watched it, I was like, okay, stop like trying to judge whether he's doing a good job being Anakin. He is Anakin. It's him.
Oh, just like not using the Clone Wars like mannerisms as much and stuff.
I don't know. I mean, he did though. He did bring in some.
Yeah.
Come on, DeAndre Swift. Oh, brought down a 3. Put DeAndre Swift in at the last minute. He just had
He's
a 40.
doing so good.
Is he today?
Yeah, DeAndre
He had an
Swift is
awful
killing
game last week.
it. DeAndre Swift is killing it.
Speaking of killing it, Reesburg Beavers freshman team 22-0 today.
Solid.
Is that
Yeah, it
you?
was great. Yeah.
Nice.
22.
I need AJ Brown to get 1 more catch. 2 more catches.
It's suddenly
Dang it.
turning into a sports podcast.
Yeah. I got some bets tonight.
Oh, really? All right. We haven't
Well.
even talked about the end of this episode yet.
No.
I mean, we kind of briefly did.
A little purple action.
Yeah. So Ahsoka. Oh, someone said something. My boy Hayden. When Ahsoka said this is the Clone Wars and Hayden laughed, of course it is. That was some major Matt Lanter. Oh, yeah. He definitely did some Matt Lanter stuff. Like just some of the mannerisms and the way he talked with snips and stuff. I mean,
Elder
a lot of
snips.
that was him kind of saying, all right, how can I conjure up Matt Lanter version of Star Wars? And he did a great job of that. Yeah, I thought it was really cool. I mean, the first time I saw it, I was like, do I want Anakin trying to be a different version of Anakin than he already was? And it did kind of make me like double check, like a little bit, double take. Where I was like, threw me off a little bit. But I definitely bought into it. And second time I watched it, I actually enjoyed it more the second time than I did the first time. I came out of it.
Wow.
The first time I said like 9.5 or 9.75 or whatever it was. And the more I thought about it, I was like, well, I don't know. And then I just sat down and enjoyed it the second time. And I was just like, this is phenomenal. It's just
Yeah.
so cool.
Yeah. I didn't understand why John didn't like it. Like I understand they used low budget for the flashback like backgrounds, but you gotta accept that it's a TV show and that like I am here for like what's right in front of me in the field of view and what's not in the field of view. I don't care. Like,
yeah, it was just good. It was just good stuff, and there's no getting around it.
yeah, I was like those lightsaber fights. Oof.
I don't know. John says 9-1. John says, or I'm sorry,
91.
not. I don't know who this John fellow is.
Ah,
Oh,
The Lego CPA says
Who
the
is
hair
John?
was a little too dirty blonde Superman for him.
Dirty
to be
Blonde
honest,
Superman.
I don't know what that means, but I'll take your word for it.
Superman
First off,
isn't
Superman has like dark
dirty.
black hair.
Yeah, it's like even like Tom
Does it?
Welling
There's the style.
Smallville.
Maybe he's saying like the dirty blonde version of Superman's hair. Did he mean like the curl in the front or something?
I get which one, because Superman's usually pretty clean cut, isn't he?
Oh,
Well,
he's
he's-
talking about the '90s Superman, I guess, because there's the Superman that has like a mullet, but it doesn't look like
What?
it doesn't look like that. Yeah,
Uh,
yeah,
Well, I
it
mean,
looks bad.
this is the time that Anakin's growing his hair out from being a Padawan to what we see in Revenge of the Sith. So it's a little
Well,
shorter.
He's
and
been
then
set free.
yeah, and it's not even like that much. He just looks like a Justin Bieber, like, type of kid,
Yeah.
which is his hairstyle. I hate to say it, but it is.
All right. So Ahsoka wakes up from her
Yeah.
bath,
Mhm.
and Jason goes and sees her, says how happy he is to see her. What did he say? He said something that was interesting, did he not? Or asked her a question?
He said, "I heard you fighting."
Oh, that's right. Yeah, and she was very interested in. He said,
She's
"You
like,
did."
"You did you?" Oh,
So
Mhm.
did you think that like she was actually surprised about that, or was she just like talking to a kid, like, "Oh, you did you?"
I think she was a little surprised, but not like super surprised.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's more she was noticing that like she had to expect that he had some potential, but that it's actually manifesting itself now.
Mm-hmm. Do you think that he gets trained
Yep.
by Ezra?
Probably.
Yep.
Maybe.
Yep. Yep.
Maybe I don't know. Maybe Ahsoka takes him on with Sabine.
Man,
Takes two
yeah.
Padawans.
Two Padawans. There
I
are
mean,
only so many masters in the galaxy at this point.
That's
so.
true. They have to
That's
double
what they
up.
did in Jedi Academy.
That's not a great master to Padawan ratio.
No.
Nope. A lot of ganging up.
I think it would make sense for Ezra to train her. Do you guys think Ezra's going to come back just like he left, like the same person, same
No,
hopeful
'cause-
attitude, and or is he going to be changed?
Ooh. I think he's gonna be more stoic.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's been what, years
Yeah,
of him
it's been a long time.
being who knows where, doing who knows what. So I think it kind of depends on what his situation has been over the last however many years.
Yeah. Well, what's he been doing over there, do you think?
Yeah.
Saving
been-
the unknown galaxies.
Like, has he just been living over there hermit style? Has he been trying to
No.
help people with stuff? Has
Ezra's
he
Are
not
there
a
people
hermit.
there?
has he teamed up with Thrawn? Are him and Thrawn been fighting for the last 15?
Are they
or
fighting the
whatever it is?
Grisk?
Yeah. What's going on?
Are they
'Cause that
fighting
would
If
be
there are
interesting.
people to help, like why hasn't he come back if he was able to? Like,
Well, I don't know if they know how to get back.
captivity?
I
Has he
guess,
been
I don't know.
Oh, has he been in captivity? Because
Yeah.
I mean, you think about it, they get there, the crew is all still on that ship. Now, I
Most
don't
of
know
them
how
were dead, right?
I don't know how they breathed in the Chimera because the windows were open as they traveled
Yeah.
through hyperspace.
It's not an
So-
issue in Star Wars, my guy.
I'm not really sure how that happened.
Leia can fly,
Forced
bro.
breath.
Maybe in hyperspace they like have a pocket of oxygen.
Yeah.
I'm like cramping up on my
The
side
ship
right
had
now.
shields.
I mean,
Yeah.
the ships do have shields, but we've also seen ships get
That's
shot
right.
and get. Is my appendix rupturing? What does that feel like? Have you
Okay.
guys ever had that before?
Nope.
No.
Ooh. It's not. We're fine. I'll be all right. Oh my gosh, I'm gonna go off camera for a second. You guys keep it going.
Abdominal pain, fever, chills, weakness.
Well, hopefully he's all right. But yeah, I don't know. I don't know how those people would survive in space because he was right. That thing was blown half to pieces
Like, you're not
when the
supposed to be
Cargills
able
took it
to,
through.
but I'm sure they're gonna not explain it.
No, I'm sure.
It's a lot to ask.
Probably not. I don't know. I don't think they're on a deserted planet, because if they were, I don't know how they get found. But maybe it's just been him and Thrawn roughing it out for a few years together.
All
Doing
good?
all right.
Yeah, it went away. That was weird.
Okay.
It's just like it's like pulsing pain right below my ribs,
Yeah.
right below my bottom rib. It's weird. Like I guess my kidney. It was more so my kidney.
Yeah.
Anyways, moving on. But yeah, I'm having a hard time imagining what's been going on for 10, 15 years. You know what I mean? How long has it been? So
I
at the
really want to
beginning-
know what's over there and yeah, what he's been doing.
So we've gotten through Return of the when he left, it was right before A New Hope.
He was
Yeah.
the whole Civil War.
Yeah,
All
he
the-
made it possible.
All the important
for them to
parts.
live out.
He started the whole Civil War and then left. Ding
He
dong
just
ditch.
threw a grenade and ran. He's like, "Have
Yeah.
fun! I'm out of here. See ya."
Ding dong ditch.
Well, it's time to blow this popsicle joint. But yeah, I'm having a hard time understanding what could be going on. Like, because him and Thrawn, they kind of have a common goal now, just like to survive, because they have no reason to fight anymore.
Yeah.
And I could see Thrawn.
Neither one of them are really vindictive. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, it depending on. Well, see, I always had thought that they had gone to like the outer reaches of the unknown regions of the galaxy, but they're not in
okay.
the unknown regions of the galaxy. They're in a different galaxy entirely. So, like, do they
Better.
know they're in a different galaxy? You know what I mean? Or do they just think they're at a place that they have no idea where they are? But
Well, they
I
must have
imagine.
figured it out.
And does this galaxy that they travel to have space travel?
Nope.
Did they travel to the Milky Way?
A one-way galaxy.
But you know what I mean? Like,
The MCU.
but what kind
Crossover
of galaxy
event?
do they get to?
Please no.
Do
I
they
know,
speak
I'd
any of the
cry.
same language as anyone in this galaxy? Like, just what kind of life have they been living? I'm very interested. I'm hoping we get to see that next episode.
Is this other galaxy in reality them traveling to a different timeline where 7, 8, and 9 didn't happen?
No.
No, they're at a different galaxy. They're not in a parallel universe.
Same timeline, different time.
Yeah. I'm excited to see where this goes, man. It's just
Yeah.
it's fun to be able to theorize and like think about what's going to happen next, because like with the Kenobi show, which is the last or I guess we got Mandalorian and Kenobi, there just was no there was no
Excitement.
mystery to anything. There was
No excitement there.
You just kind of know what's going to happen. I mean, even with Mandalorian and like Moff Gideon having a secret base on Mandalore, we didn't see that coming. But you knew that it was good. You're getting to the end of the season. You know you're gonna have a big battle with Moff Gideon in some way, shape, or form. So like, there was nothing to really wonder about. And I just feel like every week I'm just wondering what's next.
Yeah.
I do enjoy that in the Star Wars.
Tuesday. Yeah, it's great, man. I hope that Disney learns from how good this is and moves forward. Like, I hope the numbers are really good. I know that since episode 5 has came out and this episode has gotten so much hype that people have gone and watched the whole season, binged the whole season. In fact, I know Richie went and binged all 5 episodes on Monday night and then watched all 4 episodes Monday night. Or no, I'm sorry. He heard how good it was. He binged the first 4 on Tuesday and then he watched 5 Wednesday night.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Is that why he was texting you the other night?
Yeah, he texted and called me the other night.
Okay.
How did you know that?
Because he asked me for your number.
Oh, he had my number in his phone.
I don't know.
He said, I had Jake in my phone, but I didn't know if you still have the same number or not. So yeah. He texted me. He texted me. He's like,
He lost your
Jake,
number.
Jake, ... And I was like, I know Richie's so good. He's like, how did you know that's what I was talking about? I said, because it's that good. It's gonna be you haven't talked to me in 2 years. Of course that's what you're talking about.
Oh, that's sad.
He said he was gonna watch tonight, but I don't think he did. That's okay.
Probably not.
We miss you, Richie.
Yeah.
We do. I'll send him the link to the video after we're done. I'm sure he'll want to watch it. But yeah, so good, guys. So good.
It's
Any
prime
other
time Star
comments?
Wars.
Speaking of prime time, Vikings are about to lose. Any other comments or points you guys want to point out?
Nope.
No, I think we covered the meat of the episode pretty well.
Yeah, I think so too. I can't think of much more to add. Guys, if you didn't like this episode of Star Wars, just let us know why, because I just got to know what it is. I mean, I've heard people saying things like Darth Vader loses again, of course. Oh, more girl power. Guys, it's nothing like that. Anakin was teaching his apprentice a lesson. He was never trying to kill Ahsoka. Like, of course, if he goes full Vader and tries to kill Ahsoka, he's going to kill her. He would have just choked her from the beginning and dropped her off the bridge or whatever he wanted to do.
Or he would have not. He would just let her hit the water and not pull her in.
Yeah, like I do think legitimately a lot of people have gotten so fed up with Disney that they just want to hate Star Wars just to hate it.
Yeah.
Which I just think is a sad place to be in. Like, I understand the issues that people have. I do. And I have those same issues. But I'm not going to be disingenuous and just say things suck when they don't. If it's good, I'm going to recognize it's good. And you guys all know that when it's bad, I'm going to say it's bad. It may take me a second watch through to admit something's bad. Sometimes I think it's good and I start thinking about it. I'm like, it's bad. Like the first time I saw Rise of Skywalker, I came out of the theater. I was like, that was stinking awesome. I had so much
hated
fun
it
watching.
the first time.
I was like, that was just so fun to watch. But it was just so fast paced. It was able to distract me from how bad it was.
That was one of my least favorite parts of it. I was like, man, they are just on the rails.
Yeah. But as soon as I was like on the drive home talking about it with my brother, we were just talking about different things like, oh man, this sucked. This was so bad. Palpatine came back from nowhere. They had find a broken piece of some old 1,000,000-year-old knife, apparently, that somehow points to a crashed Death Star that you can only see when you're standing at a certain angle on the beach. And she just happens to stand at that certain angle where the crashed Death Star beams broke just right. And this knife has been around for millions, however. Oh, so stupid. So stupid. There's just so many things about that movie are just awful.
Yeah, there was a lot about it that I just like hated, but there was stuff that I like kind of liked. So it wasn't as jarring as The Last Jedi, like Luke debauchery. Just nothing could compare.
Oh, see, I think The Last Jedi is like levels above that. That's by far the worst movie in Star Wars history, I think. But
Force Awakens didn't do as much that messed with characters as
it was
badly.
safe.
It was safe.
It was boring.
But it was a poorly made movie. I think The Last Jedi was a pretty well-made movie, but I didn't like what it did with Star Wars. Rise of Skywalker didn't really break Star Wars that bad, but it was a very poorly made movie.
It broke it some.
It broke it. It did. It broke
Palpatine.
I think it was the worst of both.
Palpatine. It broke Palpatine. But.
Yeah. I definitely I was just like mortified with with The Last Jedi, whereas Rise of Skywalker I was just like I liked parts, and then I got out of it and I started thinking more about the movie and I was like, man, I really didn't like this. And why do they always have to like bring characters back that we saw fully die, like no questions asked? Like you're in a Death Star reactor before it blows up. Like you're not getting off the Death Star.
Well, he never did get off the Death Star.
It was like his clone or something.
Yeah, they like brought his soul back to life through a different body.
I never actually heard what actually happened. The different body thing was always like a Legends thing.
Yeah, that's what they kept trying to do with Snoke. So that was the whole thing. They had all these different bodies that they were trying to endow with Snoke's clone.
Gotcha.
That's what they've been doing in The Mandalorian for the past 3 seasons, is trying to bridge that gap.
Yeah. Makes sense, I guess. Still, I don't like it.
So
I don't like it because they did it bad.
After Filoni does his Mandoverse movie, where do we want to see Star Wars go from there?
The next Thrawn movie, which would be Dark Force Rising, and then the third one, which is The Last Command. And we get the full Heir to the Empire, like not quite the Heir to the Empire, but as close as we can get trilogy.
I guess I mean after we wrap this up. The second Rise of the Empire. Once the second Rise of the Empire gets wrapped up, do we want to go and keep doing things in the same like 50-year time span, or do we want to do something else? I agree, CJ.
I want to go. I guess the future would be fine. I like the stuff they've established in the past. I would like for them to get somebody to pull from Legends and do like
the Old Republic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They could do the Revan stuff. They could do the Bane stuff. They can do any number of like Jedi or Sith famous from the past. I think those eras where you have a bunch of Sith is something they've never really like shown on screen.
Mm-hmm.
I think that would be cool, even if it was like a fully focused.
They could get very
on, like, a
superhero
Sith.
movie-esque if they did some
It
stuff.
could,
Which would be
but
cool. It could be cool.
I think something that would separate a little bit is if you do the Sith, you can show like the political side of the Sith and like
When you have
the
a lot of
infighting.
When you have a
that'd
lot
be
of
cool.
them. Yeah.
Because that was the
But
whole
for-
thing that held Sith back was all that infighting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You see like
be
students
cool.
just getting murdered in the backyard.
I just
Yeah.
I just worry about Disney being able to do thousands of Sith correctly. Like
Yeah.
just they won't be dark enough.
It's true.
Like
Yeah.
if Fox
I would
did
like-
that, like the same studio that did Logan,
Mm-hmm.
did the Old Republic. Oh man. Ooh. How good would that be?
That'd be clutch.
That would be really cool.
Like I would love a Revan, I'm sorry, not Revan, a Bane movie that was similar to the theme of Logan, and the feel of Logan.
Even if they just did the first book, like
You can get a lot in that first book. There's a lot. He fights a war. And then he
does.
becomes a Sith. There's
yeah.
a lot.
But with this, I would love. I don't know that they'll do it, but with the Thrawn stuff, when they're still interacting with this time period, if they could find a way to tie it back to the Grisk, I think that would be cool. But
Mhm.
I don't expect that to happen.
Yeah, I mean, it's just interesting because the books do so heavily talk about the Grisk, and that's a Disney canon book series. So
Yeah.
you'd think that they
Yeah,
would get there somehow.
Both of them are.
Yeah. So you'd think that they would get there somehow intentionally. But they just don't. And it's just surprising to me that hasn't been something. I mean, granted, we haven't had a lot of Thrawn live action, but
Mhm.
it would just be interesting to see. But I don't want it to be just a Chiss thing because I do think that I would want some aspect of Jedi and Force in there. So I'd like to see like somehow the Jedi get involved in that battle because that's part of their galaxy. They should be caring about it.
Yeah. It's
Yeah.
more fun when they're involved.
All right. Well, I think that's time to wrap up this version of the Rogue Podcast. Please let us know what you guys think. I know that we usually get the majority of our views after the live show. So you guys enjoy this. Let us know. Tell us what you liked about the episode, what you didn't like, comments, questions, concerns you have for us. We'd be happy to respond to you guys. So thank you so much. Be sure to tell us about your friends, and we will be sure to catch you guys next week on the Rogue Podcast. Hopefully we'll be back on Tuesday again. This week we just had way too much going on. John was at a concert. Jim had his kidney stones removed. Just too much going on for us to be able to record on Tuesday. So we'll be back next week with episode 6 recap. May the Force be with you guys.
Always.